Hello Vibers, welcome once again to my YouTube channel. Have you heard of a river that swallowed our beautiful Princess Enim? Do well to subscribe and share this for more details. Now let's go into the story.
Princess Enim. She was standing by the river, her reflection shimmering in the water as if it was calling her. That night, the air was thick with a strange energy, and the villagers whispered of an ancient curse. They say the river swallowed her whole, but I know the truth. I was there. I saw everything. I grew up in a small village in eastern Nigeria, nestled between thick forest and a winding river that seemed to have a life of its own. The river was more than just a source of water. It was sacred, and the elders often spoke of its mysterious powers. It was said that the river had a spirit, and if angered, it could take away what was most precious to you. Princess Enim was the pride of our village. She was beautiful, with skin like polished ebony and eyes that sparkled like the stars. But it wasn't just her beauty that made her beloved. It was her kindness. She had a way of making everyone feel important, from the youngest child to the oldest elder. I admired her from afar, like everyone else. She seemed almost too perfect, like she was not meant for this world. The village knew peace and prosperity under the reign of King Eze, Nkem's father. But peace can be a fragile thing. There were whispers, rumors of jealousy and betrayal within the palace walls. As a servant, I was privy to many secrets. I would overhear the hushed conversations, the sharp exchanges that would stop the moment someone else entered the room. There was one person in particular who seemed to harbor a deep resentment towards the princess, her cousin, Adora. Adora had always lived in Nkem's shadow, and despite her own beauty and intelligence, she was often overlooked. I would often see her watching Nkem with a strange intensity, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite understand. It wasn't just jealousy, it was something darker, more unsettling. One evening, I was tasked with delivering a message to the palace. As I approached, I heard voices. Adora's voice, cold and sharp, and Nkem's soft but firm. I hesitated at the door, not wanting to intrude, but the words I heard made my blood run cold. "You think you can have everything, don't you?" Adora hissed. "The people's love, the throne, even the heart of the river." And Nkem's reply was calm, but there was a sadness in it. "I have never taken anything that wasn't given to me, Adora. If you want the love of the people, earn it. If you want the throne, it's yours. But the river belongs to no one." There was a long silence, and then Adora spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "We'll see about that." I didn't dare linger any longer and quickly delivered my message, but the encounter left me uneasy. There was something in Adora's tone that night, something that felt like a promise, a dark, unspoken vow. The days that followed were tensed. Nkem seemed distracted, her usual brightness dimmed. She spent more time by the river, often alone, staring into the water as if searching for something. The villagers noticed, but no one dared to ask why. We all felt it, the growing sense of dread, the feeling that something terrible was about to happen. Then, on the night of the full moon, it did. I remember it clearly. The air was thick and heavy. The kind that made it hard to breathe. The sky was dark, the moon obscured by clouds that seemed to be waiting for something. I had finished my duties for the day and was heading home when I saw Nkem by the river. She was all alone, her white dress glowing faintly in the dim light. She looked ethereal, like a spirit herself, and for a moment I wondered if I was seeing things. I was about to call out to her when I noticed movements in the shadows. Adora stepped out from behind a tree, her expressions unreadable. My heart started to race. I should have gone to them, but something in the way Adora moved, slow, deliberate, kept me frozen in place. Adora, Nkem said, turning to face her. Why are you here? Adora didn't answer immediately. She walked closer to the river, her eyes never leaving Nkem's. Do you remember what the elders say about the river? She asked finally. Nkem frowned. That it has a spirit and we must respect it. Adora smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. Yes, but they also say the river can take what it wants. It can take away pain, take away sorrow, and it can take away you. Nkem's eyes widened in realization, but before she could react, Adora reached out into her cloak and pulled out a small, intricately carved figure. It was a wooden doll, one that resembled Nkem in an eerie, unsettling way. She began to chant softly, the words foreign but filled with an ancient power that made the air on my arms stand on end. Agruga saburia itilia mapari celebandelekaba. Nkem took a step back, fear flickering in her eyes. Adora, what are you doing? Adora didn't stop. The chant grew louder and the wind picked up, whipping around them. Agragaba lekozai elebedelai. The river, which had been calm, started to ripple, its surface breaking into small, agitated waves. I wanted to move, to stop whatever was happening, but it felt like my feet were rooted to the ground. Suddenly, the wind stopped, and there was a deafening silence. Adora's chant ceased. For a moment, everything was still. Then, without warning, the river surged forward as if it had come to life. The water rose, reaching out with tendrils that wrapped around Nkem's legs, pulling her towards the riverbank. Nkem struggled, her hands grasping at anything to hold on to, but it was no use. The river's grip was unyielding. She looked at Adora, pleading, Adora, please don't do this to me. Please, I'm your sister. But Adora only watched, her expression blank. Please, Adora, Nkem begged, her voice trembling. I don't understand why you're doing this. Adora's eyes were cold. Because you've taken everything from me, Nkem, and now the river will take you. With those words, the river pulled Nkem into its depths. Her scream echoed through the night. But there was nothing anyone could do. I watched in horror as the water closed over her head, and then silence. The river returned to its calm state, as if nothing had happened, as if it hadn't just swallowed the life of her beloved princess. Adora stood there for a moment longer, her face pale, and emotionless before turning and walking away, disappearing into the darkness. I finally found the strength to move, but by then it was too late. Nkem was gone. The village was in mourning for days. The king sent out search parties, but no one could find her. It was as if she had never existed, as if the river had erased all traces of her. The elders spoke of the river's curse, how it had taken Nkem as payment for some ancient wrong, but I knew better. I knew it was Adora's doing. But I couldn't say anything. Who would believe me? I was just a servant, and Adora was of royal blood. So I kept my silence, living with the guilt of knowing what really happened that night. Years have passed since that dreadful night, but the memory of it haunts me still. The village eventually moved on, but the river remains quiet and watchful, as if it's waiting for its next victim. And Adora, she became queen after the king's passing, ruling with a cold efficiency that earned her both respect and fear. Sometimes, late at night, when the wind blows just right, I think I can hear Nkem's voice in the river, calling out, asking why no one saved me. Why couldn't you save me? Rema, why? I wish I had the courage to answer, to tell her what I saw, that I knew, but the river is unforgiving. It holds its secrets tightly, just as I hold mine. And so, the river flows on, carrying with it the weight of betrayal, the pain of loss, and the haunting memory of a beautiful princess who was taken too soon, Princess Nkem. The moral of this story is that envy and jealousy can lead to destructive actions that not only harm others but also haunt us with guilt and regret. Instead of allowing bitterness to consume us, we should embrace kindness and humility, understanding that true happiness comes from uplifting others, not tearing them down. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for staying tuned and watching all the way.